volleyball players all over the world. My name is Keith. I'm in the city of Mississauga, which is in Ontario, Canada, and I'm here to talk about the sport of volleyball. Today, I'm going to hit a super duper long, extra super special video news report about the topic of volleyball etiquette. That's right, I'm tackling the topic volleyball etiquette. I'm going to make this extra long today, so keep watching. A lot of interesting points. In this video report, you're going to hear the definition of etiquette, some examples of etiquette from various volleyball players that I asked. Mixed in, I'll have some volleyball etiquette that I came up with myself, and then we're going to talk about a couple of examples that may or may not be volleyball etiquette. You have to determine that. And at the end, I'll have a summary, and then I'll list a list of various examples that we went through in this video in case you want to write them down later. Okay, here we go. The definition of volleyball etiquette. Well, etiquette you can look up in the dictionary, but it comes down to what it is a code of conduct. A code of conduct, a type of behavior that volleyball players within a group are expected to show, to have. You know, it's a behavior. You know, you have to be on the court before the play, during the play, after the play. You're supposed to behave a certain way. And we're talking on the court, off the court. Volleyball players exude a typical certain behavior, and that's what this code of conduct is all about, and that's what we're going to discuss today. Now, think about the NHL. If you ever watch the NHL hockey, the announcers are always talking about a code, a player code that's unwritten. Only the players seem to know this, and it's a code. Anyway, if you follow the NHL, you'll know what I'm talking about. But that's with hockey. Now, with curling, because of the sport, the nature of it, has an absolute ton of etiquette. And what I really like about curling is that, well, one thing they do is if you lose a game, the opposite number on the other team has to buy you a drink. So if you're the skip and you lose, the other skip buys you a drink. So you can curl 3 games, lose 3 games, and it's kind of nice that the other team buys you 3 drinks. Well, 3 different teams, 3 different drinks. And it's cool. I mean, you lose, you feel bad, but you feel good because you get the free drinks. That's curling etiquette. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about curling etiquette. I'm here to talk about volleyball. So let's delve into this, okay? Okay. You know, when I first started asking players, tell me with an example of volleyball etiquette, I confused people because they're thinking rules. The rule book, certain rules, what's written down in the rule book. And I go, no. I'm not talking about rules. I'm talking about a code of behavior for volleyball players. And people scratched their heads kind of and went, I'm not sure what you're talking about. And that's kind of why I'm doing this news report, because I want to talk about it, and then people can go, oh, now I kind of understand what's going on here. So anyway, let's delve into this. The best way to describe it is to give you specific examples of what volleyball etiquette really is. The code of conduct. First example comes from Colin. Colin also wanted me to tell you that. Here's his Twitter handle too. Anyway, Colin nailed it. He said, shaking hands. Shaking hands at the end of the match is typical volleyball etiquette, and that is correct. If I talk to some people that play other sports, softball, hockey stuff, shaking hands at the end of a game is not common with other sports. It is with volleyball. It is kind of determined that you're going to shake hands. People just do it automatically without thinking. And in fact, if you don't shake hands, someone thinks you're pissed off or something. So anyway, that was a very good example of volleyball etiquette, shaking hands.
Volleyball etiquette.
Okay, here's the situation. 2 teams are about to play. One's on one side of the court, one's on the other, but they're warming up. They're taking spiking practice. What happens is, rule of etiquette, always hit down the line during your spiking warm-ups. Why? Because if you're hitting cross-court, it means you're hitting the ball into your opponent's lineup where they're taking spiking practice. So that is the rule of etiquette. Always hit down the line during warm-ups. Now, the rules of volleyball are technically supposed to be enforced by a referee. I mean, the game is supposed to have a referee. Every time you play, it's supposed to have a referee who determines, you know, the calls, in, outs, lifts, doubles, stuff like that. But a lot of volleyball is played without referees. I mean, here in Southern Ontario, leagues, tournaments, you know, a lot of them are played without refs. So there has to be a code of conduct for players when there's only 2 teams playing and there's no linesman or scorekeeper or nothing. There's just two teams. So anyway, then I got the message from a couple different guys, Adriano, Paul, Chris. They all sent me this message, and they kind of said, the code of conduct when there's no referees is that a team is supposed to call their own faults. That means if you lift, if you double hit, if it touches the block, you touch a net, you are supposed to call yourself. That is the code of conduct for volleyball without a ref. So that's what you should be doing. You know, if you're not doing it, that is considered cheating. It's cheating, and it upsets people when you're not making calls on yourself. And that's what you have to do, especially doubles, beach, whatever. If you throw bad hands, as they say, you're supposed to call yourself. And if you don't, your partner should be saying, oh, that was a bad set. You know, we're not taking that. That is the code of conduct for volleyball. And you should be following it if you are really a volleyball player. Now, Chris went on in more detail. He kind of said it is also code of conduct that the team if you're on a team and the other team are the ones causing the fault, it is your responsibility to call them on it the very first time. So if you see someone on the net and they don't call it, you say, hey, you're on the net. We're going to let it go this time, but we want to let you know that you're supposed to call yourself on that. So don't wait until the third time or at the end of the game on game point to call the team on an infraction. That only gets everyone heated and arguing and stuff. Call them the first time. So Chris is right. Make it out in the open that teams are supposed to call their own faults.
Volleyball etiquette.
Now here's a rule of etiquette when there's no referees at your game. When you're about to serve the volleyball, actually yell that out. Hold up the ball and yell, serve! That means you're about to serve, the other team can pick up their heads and they're ready for your serve. Or just yell out the word serve or service, whatever is more natural to you. Also, what could be better is if you yell out the score. Say, service, 5 serving 3. That not only tells them you're going to serve, but it tells the score. And if they think, oh no, wait, it's 4 serving 3. That way everything's confirmed because there's no refs, there's no scorekeepers. You want to keep everyone alert and aware to what's going on. Because if you just throw the ball into the air over the net, the team go, whoa, you served too quick, and we don't even know what the score is. So that's a rule of volleyball etiquette. Always yell out the service and the score before every point. Now let's jump to another example of volleyball etiquette. Marcia and Richard both told me about this one, and it's very accurate. When you're playing a game and your ball goes onto another court, everyone yells, ball, ball. And what it does is it gets the attention of the teams on an adjacent court, so they know, hey, I might be stepping on another team's ball. So that is volleyball etiquette, yelling the word ball so other players don't trip on the ball. They realize a second ball has just arrived on their court or is about to. Look out, stop the play. That's pretty cool stuff. That is volleyball etiquette.
Volleyball etiquette.
An important rule of volleyball etiquette is to always respect the team you're playing against. So what I'm referring to is when you're on a noticeably stronger team and you're playing a very visibly weaker team, take it easy on them. Show them respect. Of course you're there to win, but you're not there to beat them up. You know, I have seen stronger teams, they see, hey, there's a weaker team on the court against us. We're going to six-pack them all. We're going to mow them into the ground. We're going to insult them, tell them how bad their skills are, tell them how proud we are to be so much better than them. That is not proper volleyball etiquette. A high-level player always has respect for lower-level players, encourages them, and then kind of says, well, okay, we're here to win, but we're not going to trounce you. We're going to have some fun. That is proper volleyball etiquette. When you play a weaker team and you six-pack players and you make fun of their skill level, that is not volleyball etiquette. You should never be doing that. The next example was sent to me by Kirby. So thank you, Kirby, for providing this excellent example of volleyball etiquette. What it is when you're playing, say, an indoor facility, always bring 2 pairs of shoes. One is an outdoor pair and one is your indoor court shoe. And what it says is, hey, don't walk in through the snow in a Canadian winter, walk straight onto the court and start playing volleyball. You're tracking in snow, mud, dirt onto the court. You should always have 2 different shoes. One to wear outdoors, boots and stuff. But when you're playing, you have your court shoes, nice clean court shoes that are only used on the court. Great example of volleyball etiquette. It's showing respect for the facility you were at. It keeps it clean. The players don't have to worry about slipping and sliding, and you don't have to clean it up afterwards. So Kirby, thanks for that great example of volleyball etiquette. Respect your facility.
Volleyball etiquette.
Now here's a code of volleyball conduct that everyone should follow. What it is having respect for the facility you're playing at. Doesn't matter if it's outdoor beach or indoor court at a school. Always have respect for the facility. And let me give you an example. Let's say you're done for the day, your team has picked up all their bags, you're leaving. As you're leaving, stop, turn around, and take a look at the space that you were sitting at or laying at or using all day. Make sure it's empty. Don't leave any knee pads or shoes behind. But more than that, don't leave any garbage behind because someone has to pick that up. So if there's empty water bottles or orange peelings or all kinds of lunch that you left behind, wrappers and stuff, take it with you. Go pick it up and put it in a garbage can as you're leaving, because obviously the gym will be a mess after you leave and someone's got to be stuck for an hour or two after that cleaning up. So have respect for the gym you're at, the facility you're at. It is typical, very high level volleyball etiquette to leave the gym in the shape you found it. Now I want to say thank you to Alan for providing this next example of volleyball etiquette. It's simple, it's straightforward. Never kick a volleyball. Never kick a volleyball. In fact, you should be rolling the volleyball under the net to your opponent every time. That is proper volleyball etiquette. Now there's two reasons for this, of course. Well, first of all, some people just think you can damage a volleyball if you toe punt it across the gym. That's one reason. I don't think it's that big a deal to hurt a volleyball. But some people, if you own a volleyball and you see someone boot it, you go, oh, you're going to destroy my volleyball. But the second reason is the biggest one. And I've seen it happen. I've seen players kick a volleyball, go right off their foot on the wrong angle and smack someone right in the face who's not expecting this hard kick. So that is the reason for not kicking a volleyball. You don't know the direction it's going to go in and you could hurt someone. You could smoke someone in the face or somewhere else and hurt them. So anyway, thank you, Alan. You picked up a good point by saying never kick a volleyball, roll it under the net to someone else. Oh, wait. I just want to add there are exceptions to this. There's exceptions. One is, well, when you're playing beach volleyball and the ball gets wet, you don't really want to roll it under the net because it picks up a lot of sand. So in that case, you're playing beach volleyball. If the ball could be wet, you want to kind of toss it to the other server on the other team, or maybe even your own server. But don't roll it because now the ball's going to pick up all the sand you just brushed off it. So keep that in mind. That is an exception to the rule. Still, no, don't kick it, but you can't always roll it when you're playing beach volleyball because of that sand factor.
Volleyball
Etiquette.
Another simple but very important rule of volleyball etiquette when you're playing beach volleyball is before you give the ball to the other team for them to serve, or maybe someone from your own team, make sure you do this or this. What you're doing is wiping the sand off the ball, because once you toss the ball to your teammate or the other team, they catch it, they're going to get a face full of sand or sand in the eye. So what you're doing is showing respect for the other team or your own teammates. You're showing respect for other volleyball players by thinking about them, cleaning off the ball, getting the sand off before you toss it to them. Keep that in mind. It's very important. I want to say thanks to two different girls, Anna and Maria, for bringing up this next example of volleyball etiquette. The most common form of volleyball etiquette. What is it? Hand slapping. Hand slapping. It is very common in the world of volleyball. You serve, you get an ace, the 5 players from your team all come up, give you high fives, low fives, side fives, always touching hands. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I've talked to players who don't play volleyball, they play softball, they play hockey, and they go, wow, the one thing you notice most about volleyball is that all the players are always slapping hands. That is so common in volleyball. I don't know, psychologically, I don't want to get into it. But anyway, that is a great example of volleyball etiquette, code of conduct, slap your partner's hand to show, hey, support, spirit, whatever you want to do. But that's it. That's great. Volleyball etiquette, hand slapping. Can it get any better than that?
Volleyball
Etiquette.
Another rule of volleyball etiquette is if you're not involved with either team playing in a game, then don't get involved with either team. What I'm referring to is I have seen players actually walk by a game that is going fine. 2 teams are playing, having a good time. A player who's not on either team walks by the court and says, hey, he's doing something illegal. And he walks onto the court and starts describing something. And the next thing, everyone's in a big argument. Why? Because a player who was not involved with the game at all decided to walk on the court and cause some trouble. So, rule of volleyball etiquette. Don't get involved in a game that you're not part of either team playing in the game. Oh yes, I want to give you one example I saw of very poor volleyball etiquette, and it has to do, of course, with respecting players and teams. I've been at a tournament once where I saw two teams take to the court, start warming up. They're peppering, they're volleying back and forth, and some guy who was not part of either team decides, I want to get a couple of hits in. So he actually gets a guy to set him. He goes up, smokes the ball over the net, and what does he do? He nails a girl on the side of the face who's warming up. And then, of course, he grabs the ball and runs away because he's not really on the other team, and the girl actually ended up getting injured and she couldn't play in the tournament anymore. And it's all because one guy decided, I'm just going to run onto someone else's court and start spiking the ball. You just don't do that. That's not volleyball etiquette. That's really bad code of conduct, etiquette, whatever. So if there's two teams warming up, they have the court, it's their court for the rest of the 2 games, whatever, let them have it. Leave them alone. Don't run on the court and start using it when it's not your court to use. That is very serious volleyball etiquette.
Volleyball
Etiquette.
The next example of volleyball etiquette is brought to you by Sue and Jennifer, who both mentioned this. That is, if you borrow someone's volleyball, return it. Return the volleyball. It's happened to me. I've been in tournaments and someone will say, hey, can I borrow your volleyball for our warm-up in the other court? And I go, yeah, here you go. And then guess what? I can't find it anymore. They warmed up, they hit it, then they just let it roll around the gym. And then I got to spend an hour afterwards going from court to court or a different gym saying, where's my volleyball? The guy borrowed it and then he just never brought it back. So volleyball etiquette, borrow a volleyball, return the volleyball to the owner.
Volleyball
Etiquette.
Okay, now I'm going to give you some examples of things that may or may not be what's considered code of conduct. So you tell me if this is etiquette or not. Anyway, here's a list. You can talk about it and think about it and leave your comments in the comments section below. First of all, sent in by Katie or asked by Katie, in co-ed volleyball, should girls get set as much as guys? Anyway, think about that one. The next one is sent in by Misha, which is pretty good. It is, in co-ed doubles, should guys always have to serve guys? And of course, should girls always serve girls? Something to ponder in co-ed twos. Should be a rule or is that just etiquette? Number 3, sent in by Mario. It says, when you're playing co-ed volleyball, should a guy be able to block a girl? We're not talking a rule here, we're talking etiquette. Should guys just not block girls and let them swing away? Oh yes, here's a pretty cool one. This is kind of specific to British Columbia, Canada, BC. Their etiquette is that when you're at game point, or match point, sky ball to win. So you have to serve underhand, hit the ball as high as possible on the match point. And that's what their etiquette is. It's not like spike serve or float serve. It's sky ball to win. So that's pretty cool. I've only heard of that in British Columbia, but that's kind of their etiquette. I say BC around the Vancouver area. So keep that in mind. Nowhere else I know does that. Here's another one. Steve kind of wonders, is there a proper way to kick someone off your volleyball team? Is this etiquette or something else? Okay, John also asked, is there a proper way to actually dump your doubles partner? Is this etiquette? Is this kind of rules? I don't know. You think about that. And then finally, Jessica asked, is there a proper way to steal a player off another team and get them to join your team? See, these things, I don't know if this is volleyball etiquette or not. You can determine that. There's something to do with morals and things, but anyway, it's debatable and something worth talking about, don't you think?
Volleyball
Etiquette.
So in conclusion, I just want to tell you that all the players I talked to in this news report about who gave me feedback and stuff are all typical adult volleyball players who play in weeknight adult leagues or weekend tournaments. So keep that in mind. That is a set group of people that think a certain way because that's the volleyball they play. Now, if I ask this specific same question to, say, youth club team coaches or youth players or parents of youth players, they would probably have a completely different way of looking at it, and they would come up with their own criteria for what is volleyball etiquette based on the volleyball they play. So that certain group is different and would come up with different results, I'm sure.
Volleyball
Etiquette.
So now that you've heard all these rules of etiquette, code of conduct, most leagues don't have this written down anywhere. Some leagues do. Some leagues put a couple of things in there, not just the rules of play, but how to behave when you're there. A few leagues do it, but most of this is called unwritten rules. It's a code of conduct that volleyball players should be following while they're playing the game. And as I said at the start, on the court, off the court, before, during, and after your games, this is how you should behave as a volleyball player.
Volleyball
Etiquette.
One last thing I want to talk about that I never mentioned is fighting. Fighting in volleyball. I have never seen an actual fight in volleyball. In all my years of running tournaments and playing in leagues and stuff like that, I've never seen fighting. Now, is this part of the volleyball etiquette, the code of conduct, or maybe it's simply because volleyball is a non-contact sport and just doesn't have that physical part like hockey or soccer where you're running into people. So maybe that's a reason why there's not as much fighting or no fighting in volleyball while there's a lot of fighting in ball hockey and things like that. So anyway, that's a factor. I didn't want to get into the fighting part, but you can talk about it if you want and feel, is it really volleyball etiquette that nobody fights or fights are almost non-existent?
Volleyball
Etiquette.
And now for easy reference, I'm going to show a list on the screen of all the examples we gave of volleyball etiquette. So if you want to write them down, put them on paper, put them on your Facebook account, that's up to you. But you can always pause this video and do that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my very long extended news report about volleyball etiquette, the code of conduct in volleyball. It was fun to delve into this and get examples from all these volleyball players, and hopefully it opened your eyes and now you think a little bit more about how volleyball players should act on the court. This is Keith in Mississauga. Bye for now.
Subscribe
Subscribe to the Volleyball channel.